She had the nerve to invite her fling into our home and sneer, "Your house is so pathetic." I just smiled and handed her a property transfer form. That night she discovered the deed had been reassigned to him, while I moved the kids to a new city and started fresh. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 34, and for the past 3 years I've been balancing full-time work and single parenting, trying to piece together a life that felt steady after my divorce. From the outside, our little townhouse looked cozy, pale gray walls, a mismatched sofa that the kids claimed was Fort-worthy, and my pride plastered across every photo frame holding Mia's ballet recitals or Logan's science projects. I spent years cultivating what felt like normalcy, convincing myself that stability was all I needed. When David texted last week about bringing someone over for Saturday brunch, I didn't think much of it. He asked if it was okay. I said sure, expecting maybe a quick hello before they ran off to catch a movie or browse the farmer's market downtown. The kids were headed to their grandparents', so I figured I'd have a few hours to myself anyway. Then I saw her Instagram story, Chloe Parker, perched on a rooftop bar somewhere in LA, perfect eyebrows, perfect lips, perfect smirk. She looked too polished for our little home. But I still didn't expect what came next. Chloe arrived just after 11. I was in the kitchen rinsing coffee mugs when I heard her heels click across the foyer tile. I wiped my hands and walked out, trying to summon a friendly smile. Instead, I found her standing in the middle of my hallway, head tilted like she was inspecting clearance rack goods. She wore designer jeans, a silk blouse, and that look, half amused, half dismissive. I managed a hey and a nod. She scanned my home like I was her latest reality TV challenge. "Your house is so pathetic," she said. No qualifiers, no apology, just out there, dripped in contempt. I felt my cheeks flush but kept my voice even. "Glad you noticed." I reached behind me, pulled out a neat folder of papers, and handed it to her. Her eyebrows shot up as she took it. She flipped through the first page, then the last, eyes widening. I knew that look, the sudden realization that someone was no longer playing by the expected rules. "What is this?" she asked, calm but tense. I told her it was the property transfer form, that I'd legally signed over the deed to David a few days ago. Made the house entirely his, so he was free to do whatever he wanted with it, sell it, rent it, redecorate it with purple shag carpet. I shrugged. Simplifies things. Chloe looked down at the papers, then back up at me. I saw the surprise tighten into something like anger, but also something else, respect, maybe, for not begging or explaining. She folded the sheets with deliberate slowness, dropped them on the console table, and stood silent. I didn't wait around for her to spit out another insult. I turned and walked past, heading for the garage. I could hear her phone tapping, a text to David, I assumed. I didn't look back. In the garage I opened the trunk of my car. Inside lay a duffel bag with my name on the luggage tag, 1 weekend's worth of clothes for me, one for each kid, plus their favorite stuffed animals. Next to it was a stack of cardboard boxes labeled kitchen, kids' books, bedding. Under the fluorescent light I double-checked the dates. Movers arrive at midnight, movers arrive at midnight. Tomorrow morning we'll be on the road by 7, heading north to the coastal town where I signed a lease last week. New schools, new job assignment, it was all set up in secret so there'd be no last-minute second thoughts. I rubbed my calves, already sore from carrying boxes up and down stairs at the storage facility. I felt a strange rush, equal parts relief and adrenaline. I'd kept this plan hidden even from my closest friends because I didn't want their pity or their hesitation. I needed to leap and trust there was ground waiting. Inside the house, the echo of Chloe's heels had faded. I pictured her on the other side of the door, realizing her fling no longer owned a stake in the life she'd sneered at. Maybe she'd storm back in and rip my throw pillows apart. Maybe she'd never speak to David again. I didn't care. What mattered was that my kids would wake up tomorrow in our new home, with walls we chose and rules we set. I closed the trunk and leaned against the car, taking a deep breath. Somewhere in the mix of boxes, car seats, and the leftover echo of Chloe's taunt, I felt something shift inside me. I was done defending a life that belonged to someone else, done justifying my efforts to a woman who saw our imperfect home and decided it was worthless. This was the true beginning, the moment I traded a house I could barely claim for a life I truly owned. I snapped the trunk shut and clicked my car keys. Tomorrow, at dawn, we start fresh. The next morning I woke before dawn, the sky still a dusky blue outside the bedroom window. Mia shuffled into our room clutching her purple unicorn blanket and Logan followed, eyes heavy with sleep. I tried to be cheerful while stuffing granola bars and juice boxes into the car door pockets. Their excitement was contagious, and for a moment I let myself imagine our new life. The salty breeze off the coast the first night we arrived, the sound of unfamiliar seabirds outside our window. Then my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I picked it up while the kids strapped themselves into their car seats and saw a text from an unknown number. No contact name, just a string of digits. I opened it and my heart stopped. A short video clip showed our living room, the very one Chloe had sneered at, empty now except for one lone box. The camera panned slowly to a framed photo of me and the kids still on the console table. Then the lens swung away and I saw her face. Chloe's lips twisted into that same mocking smirk. In the text she had written, "You thought you could erase me." But her voice echoed through the speaker clear as day. Mia looked up at me and asked why I had a sad look on my face. Logan shifted in his seat and said, "Are we going to be okay?" I forced a smile and tucked my phone into my pocket. I told them we were. That adventure sometimes had surprises, but we were strong. They believed me. The car pulled away from the driveway and I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her car tailing us on the quiet street. The route out of town follows a winding highway through oak trees and rolling hills. In the fading darkness I caught the glow of tail lights in the distance but chalked it up to early commuters. 20 miles and I decided to stop at a small roadside diner. I needed coffee and the kids wanted stretching legs. As I turned off the highway I noticed the same tail lights slip behind me into the exit lane. My pulse quickened. I parked the car, angled toward the door and walked the kids inside, trying to look calm. The diner smelled of frying bacon and strong coffee, and an old jukebox warbled Beatles tunes in the corner. A waitress brought over a pot of coffee and free refills on pancakes. I slid back to the edge of my booth so I could see the parking lot through the large front window. Through the glass I watched my own car and the sedan parked a few spaces over. Its engine was off but headlights still on, and a lone figure was moving behind the driver's side door. Then the glass door rang open and a man in a baseball cap stepped inside, glanced around, and headed straight for my booth. At first I thought it was the manager coming to ask what I wanted, but the silence that fell over the other patrons told me otherwise. He stopped in front of me and looked down. His cap shadowed his face, but I knew that stance. "How did you find us?" I said, voice low. My hand crept toward the car keys and my purse resting on the table between us. He lifted the cap and I saw the sharp angles of David's face. His eyes were red-rimmed and for a moment I thought I had it all wrong. But then he frowned and pulled a folded note from his pocket. He laid it on the table without saying a word and turned to walk away. I opened it and read 3 words that made my chest knot: "You are marked." Before I could react he pushed through the door and was gone into the dark lot. I stared at the note, crushed it in my fist, then smoothed it out. Across the bottom in tiny lettering was Chloe's name and a new number I didn't recognize. The kids were chattering about pancakes and syrup, but I felt like I'd been punched. My fingers shook as I called David back. His voicemail picked up. I left a message asking what he was playing at and warning him he had 1 hour to tell me everything. We finished breakfast in tense silence. Outside, the headlights of Chloe's unknown car were gone. Yet I knew that she or someone working for her had tracked us down and sent my ex to intimidate me. I gathered the kids back into the car and gave them each a hug before buckling them in. My eyes flicked again to the open glove compartment where I'd stashed extra cash and emergency documents. The note burned beneath my palm. As I turned the key in the ignition, the engine sputtered. Then nothing. My stomach dropped. I tried again. Dead. In the silent parking lot I realized we were completely exposed. No gas station nearby, no cell service, until I drove a mile back toward the highway. My plan to start fresh was unraveling faster than I could process. I glanced at Mia and Logan, asleep in their seats, unaware of the danger. My throat went dry as I reached into the glove compartment one more time and found the spare ignition key taped to the little packet of documents. I undid the tape, hands shaking, and pressed it into the ignition. The car roared to life and I exhaled so hard I worried my lungs might collapse. I glanced in the mirror. A black sedan peeked around the corner of the diner's wall as if waiting for me. I slammed the gear into drive and floored it. The tires screeched as I peeled out of the lot. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty. Somewhere out there Chloe waited, ready to strike again. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going back to that life. I'd uncover every scheme she had laid and protect my kids no matter what camouflage she put on next. And if that meant driving through the night with danger on our tail, I'd do it. Because this was our second chance and I refused to let it slip away. The highway lights blurred past as I pressed the accelerator, heart hammering. Mia and Logan slept in the back, oblivious to the tail lights that flickered behind us like a malicious heartbeat. I tried dialing David again, fingers trembling, but the call went straight to voicemail. Every ring pounded in my ears. Who did he work for now, Chloe or his own spite? My mind raced through every screwy twist I'd lived through with him, every broken promise and slammed door. 20 minutes later, I saw a flicker of neon up ahead, an all-night gas station on the edge of nowhere. I took the exit, adrenaline still spiking, and parked under the harsh white glow. I jumped out, slid around the car, and popped the trunk. The spare SN95 key rested next to my toolbox, just in case. I yanked it out, pressed my ear to the trunk lock, nothing. Good sign. Then I spotted movement behind the station's tinted window, a silhouette pacing, backlit by fluorescent shelving. I grabbed the duffel bag from the trunk, slung it over my shoulder, and marched inside. The bell over the door jingled, and the attendant, a grizzled guy in a faded ball cap, nodded. I smiled too sharply, hands wrapped around the bag strap. He pointed at the rear exit where I could refill the tank. Perfect. I moved toward the pumps but froze when I saw the attendant's reflection in the glass, Chloe Parker, wearing his hat backwards, red lipstick smeared across her teeth. She stepped out of the attendant's cabin, tattered jacket flapping, and dropped the cap beside the pump. Running low, she asked, voice syrupy sweet. My stomach clenched. Cut the crap, I said. What the hell is this? She shrugged like she was changing lanes in traffic. I'm impressed. You made it halfway to your new life before you ran out of gas. She tapped her phone screen, another video started playing on the pump display, David, on his knees, begging a man I didn't recognize. A short man in a designer suit, face hidden by shadows. The caption read, please, she's got the kids. The attendant, Chloe's latest accomplice, peered out from behind a rack of motor oil. He clicked his tongue, and suddenly 3 more silhouettes emerged, 2 burly strangers in hoodies and 1 slim figure in a motorcycle helmet. The first man in the suit stepped forward, leaned low, and smiled. You think you can start fresh? Not on our watch. His voice was muffled but the menace was clear. My heart twisted as I realized the truth, David had sold me out. He must have cut a deal, signed over custody details in exchange for the deed and more. This wasn't about insults or property anymore, it was about control, and they were using my kids to keep me from leaving. A scream cut through me, Logan's panicked cry from the car. I darted around the pump, slammed open on the driver's door, and lifted Logan into my arms. Mia stumbled out, clutching her unicorn blanket. The motorcycle helmet figure blocked the passenger side. I swapped kids, scooped Mia into the driver's footwell, then slammed the door shut. Chloe laughed, taking a cigarette out of the attendant's pocket and lighting it with a Zippo. Smoke curled around her face as she said, you should have seen the look on your face when you realized those custody papers were forged. My blood ran cold. That stack of paperwork I'd filed in secret, gone. They'd swapped them that afternoon while I was packing boxes. I'd handed them the wrong forms. Forms that granted them temporary guardianship if I abandoned the property. I fumbled for my phone, pried off the SIM card tray, and found a tiny microSD chip taped inside, my emergency cloud backup drive with real custody orders and property deeds. I shoved it in my pocket. Then I hit the ignition, but the engine only sputtered. The suit took a half step forward like he was savoring the moment. From the corner of my eye, I spotted the panel below the steering column ajar. Among the wires, a small black box was clamped around the ignition line, an immobilizer. Chloe blew smoke in my direction. Nice try. You're staying. That's when instinct took over. With one hand on the wheel and the other gripping Mia's hand, I yanked the gear shift into neutral. Then I reached down, yanked the box free, and slammed the gear back into drive. The engine roared. I gunned it, tires spinning, and slammed into the first stranger who stepped in front of us. The impact reverberated through the chassis as his body crumpled onto the hood. Chloe's eyes widened for a split second before she dove for cover behind a pump. I swerved, fishtailed toward the highway ramp, and floored the gas. The stranger on my hood slid off with a muffled thud as we shot onto the ramp at near top speed. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. In the rearview mirror I saw Chloe's silhouette framed in the pump's glow, cigarette still burning, lips curving into a triumphant grin. We blasted past the exit sign, miles lost in seconds. Mia nestled into my shoulder, Logan's quiet sobs trembling through his back. The highway stretched ahead, moonlight glinting off the guardrails. I wiped tears from my eyes and tapped my pocket, my backup drive, intact. I'd shown them I could fight back, that I wasn't helpless. But now I had to disappear completely, rebuild custody papers from scratch, and find allies who wouldn't sell out their own mother. As we barreled into the night, I realized this war had only just begun. They'd cornered me once, but I'd broken free. The next move was mine. And I had a whole new level of resolve, enough to turn their dog-eat-dog game into my final checkmate. I peeled away from the gas station like a woman possessed, the kids' snores humming through the cabin as my knuckles turned white on the wheel. The highway stretched out before me, streetlights flickering off the windshield in scattered diamonds. In the rearview mirror, the dark shape of a sedan lingered for a moment, then vanished into the night. I punched redials into my phone until I reached the only person I trusted, my cousin Jessica. She'd left Chicago a year ago to work logistics for the Portland Police Department. Her voice crackled over spotty signal. "Sarah, get to the 24-hour cafe off exit 17. I'll meet you there." 20 minutes later I wheeled into a neon-lit lot and half-dragged the kids out, their blankets loose around tired shoulders. Jessica was already inside, her laptop open, its screen casting green light across her determined face. I laid everything on the table, the duffel bag, bullet point scribbles of our plan, and most important, the microSD drive tucked in my pocket. She slid it into her laptop's side port and fingers flew over the keyboard. On screen, clear as day, my real custody order, the genuine deed registered with King County Clerk. "They swapped your forms at the gas station," she said without looking up. "Which means legally, you never abandoned anything." I felt relief wash over me, sharp and sudden, but no time to bask in it. Then the cafe door chimed again. My chest slammed shut. Had they tracked me here too? I gripped Mia's hand, ready to run. But it wasn't Chloe or one of her thugs. It was Tommy, a burly trucker who'd been a regular at this diner for months. He ducked his head inside, then smiled sheepishly. "Heard some frantic whispers," he said. "Figured you might need a ride." Behind him, empty coffee cups and battered road maps lay scattered on the counter like breadcrumbs leading back to me. Jessica exhaled, shoulders easing. "Thank God," she muttered. I explained our next move in low tones. Philadelphia. I'd booked a 2-week short-term lease near the airport so I could sort emergency injunctions and get the kids into school without raising red flags. Tommy didn't hesitate. He climbed into the passenger seat of my car and threw me a grin. "I'll drive. You focus on the GPS and keeping everyone calm." As we sped away, the cafe's neon open sign shrank behind us and the night closed in again. My phone buzzed non-stop, voicemails from David, frantic texts from Chloe's burner number, even a strange notification that my credit cards had been flagged for suspicious activity. I shoved the device into the console and pulled the spare documents from the glove box, backup copies of every legal paper I'd ever signed. The road ahead was fogged, both literally and figuratively, but for the first time in hours I felt a flicker of control. I had allies, evidence, and an ally behind the wheel who wouldn't sell me out. By dawn we'd crossed state lines. The city lights of Philadelphia glimmered on the horizon like a promise. I steered toward the short-term rental, imagining Mia and Logan waking up to a soft bed and walls I'd chosen myself. Behind me, Tommy hummed along to the song on the radio, and in the passenger's footwell, Jessica's laptop glowed with proof of my truth. Whatever Chloe had planned, whatever David had agreed to, it was time to hit back. The final confrontation was just hours away, and I was ready to turn every twist they lobbed into my own checkmate. By mid-morning I'd checked us into a small one-bedroom near Philadelphia International. Jessica and I printed sealed envelopes for the district attorney, detailing every move Chloe and David made, video from the pump cameras, our hidden GoPro in the car, the forged custody paperwork they'd swapped, and my real deeds from the microSD. My lawyer friend Eva met us at a cafe down the block with coffee and laptops. We worked in whispers, laying out a timeline that was impossible to deny. Around noon, Eva wheeled me back to the rental to gather the kids' things. As I packed the last box, my phone buzzed, unknown number. I answered, expecting more threats. Instead I heard a stern male voice, Captain Morales of the Portland PD. Jessica had tipped him off. They'd arrested Chloe's accomplices at an abandoned warehouse outside town, seized their phones, and were closing in on Chloe herself. Morale was high, and he wanted confirmation for extradition paperwork. He ended with, "Good work, Sarah. We'll keep you updated." I closed the laptop lid and looked at Mia and Logan half asleep on my bed. Their faces were peaceful, the sort of calm I hadn't felt in days. I sent a quick text to Eva, "Thank you." Her reply was immediate, "Court's filed. You'll have a hearing next week. In the meantime, breathe." That's when I remembered the deed transfer form I'd handed Chloe in the first place. The one everyone thought I'd signed and never averted. I dug through my files and found the original document stamped void with the county clerk's seal. I'd swapped it the day before Chloe arrived with a counterfeit I'd had drawn up at my sister's law firm. Half the fun was watching her flaunt it, believing she owned a piece of my life. That fake deed was the one she and David tried to use, the one Chloe kept bragging about to her friends back in LA. When law enforcement raided her condo yesterday, they found only that bogus paper, plus her burner phone logs chronicling the ransom video. It was all the proof they needed to charge her with fraud and conspiracy to extort. Then my phone rang again, this time it was David. His voice came out rushed, panicked. He'd woken to notices of asset freezes on our old house, court papers served at his apartment, and orders blocking his access to the kids. He begged, demanded to know how I'd pulled it off. I let him ramble for a moment, then said, "I'm turning off my phone now. Don't contact me again unless you're ready to cooperate with law enforcement." I hung up. I kissed Jessica and Eva goodbye and loaded the kids into the car. We drove past the runway lights, watched jets climb toward the sun, and didn't look back. Later that night I tucked Mia and Logan into a guest bed in a little rental I'd reserved for the school year. I turned off the lamp and lay beside them, chest easing for the first time in a week. Tomorrow I'd wake up as a homeowner again, this time without a dispute, without someone sneering at my life or daring me to prove myself. I'd enroll the kids in school, sign the lease on a townhome closer to work, and maybe, just maybe, let myself feel safe. Because the people who thought they could humiliate me, who tried to steal my home and my children, ended up trapped by their own greed. And I walked away with everything I ever needed. Either way, thanks for listening. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, honest, messy human, go ahead and subscribe.